What's going on, guys? My name is Lieben and I'm back again today with another video on the gray 350Z. Ever since I got the engine running, I've been doing quite a bit of things to the car now, trying to get it to look as best as it can. What I'll be doing today is actually going ahead. I went ahead and painted the doors and the rear quarter panels a couple weeks ago now, and what I'm going to go ahead and do is buff them because they look a little bit more hazy than the older paint. That's because I still have to go ahead and buff it, but first I'm gonna have to go ahead and actually kind of wash the car because it does have a lot of dirt and stuff.
A few moments later.
Alright, and now that I've gone ahead and washed the car, it's a little bit cleaner now. I won't wipe it down because as I'm buffing, I'm actually going to be using some sandpaper, some wet sandpaper with water, so there really wasn't any point in drying down the car with a microfiber. So what I went ahead and did was I was actually just seeing some videos on YouTube about people how they buff their cars after they're painted. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is start with some 2000 grit sandpaper, then move to some 3000 grit sandpaper, and then I'll go ahead and do some rubbing compound and then some polish. So those are going to be the steps that I'm going to go ahead and take, but for right now I'm just going to go ahead and start by sanding it. So here you can see that I have my 2000 grit sandpaper and my water, so I'll go ahead and start sanding. One thing that I did notice that they said was that when you're gonna go ahead and sand, to not do circular motions. So basically when I go ahead and sand, I'm either just gonna be going up and down like that, or horizontal like this, but to not actually do swirls, because if there's any dirt, you'll basically just be leaving swirl marks on your paint. Another tip that they said is it's best to do this inside of a cool place. Right now our garage, it has another car in it right now, so I can't take it off because that one currently doesn't have a transmission in it, so I can't just take it out. So I'll be doing this in outdoors, and we'll go ahead and see what kind of results that gives. But yeah, so I'll go ahead and sand both of these sides, and then once I am done, I'll go ahead and show you guys the results. And so basically what I'm trying to remove right now is all of the orange peel, so like the hills and valleys that the paint has when we spray it on, so it can just have like a flat surface. But you also have to be careful with this sandpaper to not actually go ahead and go through the clear coat, because then you would have to go ahead and respray it on. Alright guys, and here is how it looks after the first pass. If you guys can see, around here there's still some clear coat that you can see, but then right here there's pretty much nothing. I went ahead and also left the actual where I haven't sanded is down here. I haven't touched it at all, so you can see the difference. Now if you want to, you can go ahead and leave it like that. Just know you won't get as of a flat surface, so you won't get that like mirror like finish. You have to leave it pretty smooth like that right there, so you get it like spot on, but at the same time you have to be careful not to go past the clear coat. You would still probably get pretty good results like this because you have sanded down a lot of like the valleys and hills that the paint has. But as you can see, I'm just halfway done with this door. Alright, so I've gotten the front door done, and what I figured out was that 2000 grit sandpaper, it's a bit too fine. It took me about 2 hours to go ahead and sand this door. So what I went ahead and did is I went to my local parts store and actually got some 1500 grit sandpaper, and that is what I'm going to be using for the rest of the 3 panels. I went ahead and got this sponge one. Supposedly it's supposed to help keep the water in there longer, but really the reason why I got it was because there wasn't any of the actual sanding paper available. They were out of stock, so I decided to go ahead and just grab this one. But I do not want to go ahead and just leave this door how it is. It's getting kind of dark, and I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get everything else done, but I want to go ahead and buff this door with some rubbing compound at least, so it has some kind of protection. There's no rain for tonight, but I just want to make sure that this door has some kind of protection, and I don't want to leave it just like this. Okay, and here is the compound and polish that I'm gonna go ahead and use. They are both actually from Meguiar's. I read good reviews about both of these, which is why I went ahead and used it. Also because I don't have that much experience using compounds or polish, and I heard that these are pretty forgiving. And the tool that I'm gonna be using is just a cheap one from Harbor Freight. I've only ever used this one other time. I am not exactly sure if this is an orbital polisher or what. I've kind of forgotten the name, but I'm just gonna go ahead and use that with, I believe that's a polishing pad, and we'll see what kind of results we get. And for what I understood, you're supposed to go ahead and put some of the actual rubbing compound on the pad before putting it on. I mean, you can also go ahead and put it on the door, but what I saw that they did was that they poured some on the pad and they kind of just spread on there where they were gonna be polishing. And also they said to go ahead and try not doing the whole door at once, but instead kind of focus on like a 2 foot by 2 foot area, and then once that's done, to go ahead and move on to the next section. Alright, here goes nothing. And hopefully you guys can see, but some of the shine is coming back, but I think I didn't put enough on it, so I'll go ahead and add some more onto the pad. Now that that side is done, or that section, it says to just go ahead and let it dry. Meanwhile, you can move on to the next section, and once it dries, you can go ahead and just clean off the excess with a clean towel. So I'll go ahead and move on over here where it's still, well, basically the rest of the door that still needs some compound. And like I said, this is pretty much my first time doing this, so if you guys have any tips on how to do this better, please go ahead and let me know down in the comment section. But now I'll go ahead and compound the rest of the door and show you guys when it's done. Alright guys, and this is how it looks after I've gone ahead and compounded it. I went ahead and took the excess off with a microfiber rag, and you can already see that it's starting to get a little mirror-like finish. And honestly, I think the camera doesn't do it justice because it's honestly turning out so great. And I hope now with the polishing I can go ahead and give it even more of a shine before actually giving it some wax. But if I show you kind of side by side, this is the unpainted one, and this right here is the one I just went ahead and polished. So there is a bit of a difference, but hopefully after polishing it looks closer to this. Alright guys, and here is how it looks after I just went ahead and polished it. Now it's still not looking quite like this side over here, but as you can see, it's starting to get more of that reflection. You can almost start seeing what it says on there. What I think it was is I probably needed to polish it for a little bit more for it to get a little bit more shine. I'll probably go ahead and do that, or I can also go ahead and try adding some wax to it, the final step, to see if that kind of helps it bring out more of the reflection on it. But here we can go ahead and compare to how I kind of want it to end up looking, how it is right now. The best part, honestly, I think where I did the best was back here. You can see it the most, and then back here is how it is when it started after I just painted it. You can see it's super hazy, has orange peel, and I'm pretty sure if I put this up, oh, you can kind of see the reflection. But yeah, so you'll see right here is how it started, how it's going right now as I'm working on it, and how I want it to end up. So it is getting a bit dark, so what I'm gonna go ahead and do is leave it like this for right now. Then tomorrow I'll go ahead and continue with that side and then the other side too, so I can go ahead and show you guys how it looks. Hopefully there's a bit more sun tomorrow so you guys can see how it looks in the light too. Alright, so it's a couple days later, after I went ahead and sanded and polished the other door on the driver's side. I didn't have enough time to finish all of the other panels, and then it got colder the following day. So now it's a few days later and I've been able to get back to it. One thing that I did forget is that I completely forgot to use the 3000 grit sanding paper on this door, and honestly I really don't see any scratches, maybe some light ones, so the rubbing compound and polishing actually did a pretty good job. But now on the rear quarter panel, the door, and then the rear quarter panel on the other side, I've made sure to go ahead. I started off with 1500 grit sandpaper, then I went ahead and did 2000 grit sandpaper on both sides, and now I'm in the last step of sanding, which is using this 3000 grit sandpaper, which basically is like some sort of sponge. So I'm gonna go ahead and use that one on both of the panels on this side and the quarter panel on the other side, and then after that it'll be ready to put some rubbing compound on it. Alright, and here we have it after I've gone ahead and sanded everything with a 3000 grit sandpaper. It still has some, you can see some faint kind of shininess, but most of it is off. It does feel pretty smooth, so I'm gonna go ahead and leave it like that. And also, one of the reasons why I want to go ahead and leave it is what I was talking to you about prior, about if you sand it too much, it might actually go through the clear coat and paint, and that actually happened here on this side. Hopefully the camera picks it up, but it's a tiny little speck right there where you can see it's actually gone down through to the primer, and that is because when I was spraying the car with paint, I was spraying it out here, and there was little pieces of debris and dirt that were falling from the trees and just everywhere in the environment, and some of it stuck onto the paint really early on. So right now when I was trying to flatten everything down, well, that right there was a bump, and as I was trying to smooth everything out, well, that bump got sanded too much, and maybe whatever the debris was that was stuck there fell off and left it right there. Honestly, it's not that big of a deal for me because the rest of this paint is pretty bad as well. It has a lot of little dings and scratches, like I can go ahead and show you guys here. The bumper right there has some chips all around it. The fender has some right here. So the paint condition on this car isn't the greatest already to begin with. The reason why I went ahead and painted over this was because I was actually getting rid of some of the rust and imperfections that it had. But to me, it's not that big of a deal, and obviously once I buff the paint, polish it, and then wax it, the paint is gonna look a lot better, and that's such a small detail that you probably won't even be able to tell it. But yeah, now we'll go ahead and start compounding all of the sides. Also, I'm not really showing all of the process, mainly because it's pretty repetitive. I doubt you guys really want to see me sanding the whole car 3 times and then using the machine to polish it. It's all pretty repetitive, which is why I only show little snippets of it, but that's basically what I'm doing throughout the whole car, and then moving on to the next step. Alright, so it looks like my compounding pad just went ahead and decided not to want to work anymore. So what I'm going to try to do for right now is I'll see if I can go ahead and do this one by hand. If not, then I'll go ahead and switch to a different pad that I have that's not for compounding. But if I see that it's taking too long, I'll have to go ahead and do that instead of being here all day just on this step. I'll go ahead and finish the rest of the panel, and then I'll let you guys know what it is that I decided to do. And here we have the car now with this whole section polished. As you can see, again, there is some shine back onto it, but this is going to turn out to be a multi-day process because I had to go ahead and polish it by hand. It took me a lot longer, and it's getting dark, so I just wanted to go ahead and again just give it some protection. And tomorrow, when it's more sunny out, I'll go ahead and polish all 3 sides and give it the final wax as well. Alright guys, and we're back on to day number 3. So I went ahead and put on now the blue pad, which is supposed to be for polish. I went ahead and went to the store to buy some extra pads in case this one also goes bad. I have some backup ones too, so I don't have to be doing this by hand. Because yesterday I went ahead and did all the remaining sides by hand. And if you guys can see, there is quite a bit of shine. I went ahead and put the light up there too, so you guys can see some of the reflection because it is dark in my garage. But you guys can see how good it is turning out. And I hope now with this polish, I'll be able to give it a better look. And then with the wax, the final touch. And here we have the other side. You can't see as much details because I don't have a light here on this side. But it is all looking good. I'll go ahead and polish these sides too. I want to go ahead and give another touch up to this door as well. I don't feel like I did it as long enough with the polish. I kind of want to go ahead and polish and then finish it off waxing it as well. So let's get started. One thing that I am noticing about this polish as compared to the compound is that it seems to have some flake. I didn't see that with the compound. I don't know if I'm doing the polish wrong or what, but there is a lot more like dust covering the car, so that is something to keep in mind, or at least I will, because it does seem to be making the car a little bit dirtier. But obviously once you wipe it down and wash it, well, then all of that will be gone. All right, and again, I'll just go ahead and polish all of this side, and I'll show you how it looks after I go ahead and clean it down, so you guys can see the result. And then this pad also, at the end, it went ahead and failed on me. The Velcro got detached from the actual pad, but that's alright. I just went ahead and finished it off by hand with this. It was just a small little piece that was left, so that wasn't that bad. But now I'm going to go ahead and use a microfiber cloth to clean this off so we can see the results. Alright guys, and here we have it after being polished, and I'm pretty sure the camera cannot pick it up, but it is looking so good. It's honestly starting to look better than the original paint that had already been polished and all that. It could also be because it is a bit dirty, but I honestly think that for it being my first time, it is turning out super good. Like, I can't even describe how good it looks. At least to me, it looks pretty good. If you see right here, and I'm pretty sure it's not picking it up, but in real life, it's actually showing each individual LED light. And right here, I'm guessing it's not really picking it up with my camera, but it is turning off so glossy, and that's that we're not even done. This right here is going to be the last step, which is some Meguiar's cleaner wax. It's supposed to give it a really high gloss. I've used this before, but I've never used it after actually polishing and compounding a car, so I'm expecting it to honestly give the car a much higher gloss now that all of these steps have been performed and it's on a clean surface. And if you guys can see right here, is basically showing some boxes that I have here off to my side, and the detail is honestly, it's really good, which is why I'm really surprised with the outcome of using the compound and the polisher. But yeah, now I'm gonna go ahead and just put on some of the wax, and then I'll go ahead and show you guys how it looks after it. And finally, here we have it, guys, the final product. And if you guys can see, yeah, it pretty much looks like a mirror. You can see everything on the right side right here. You can see on the car. If you look up there, the front fender, that it's dirty, so you can see it looks a little bit more hazy. And this right here, because I've gone through the whole process of sanding it, compounding, polishing, and then waxing, it looks so good. I mean, I can't even describe how good it looks. But yeah, I mean, like, I really cannot describe how good it looks. One of the things that I did not really think about was that now that it looks pretty much like it has that mirror finish, you can honestly see some of the defects more. And what mean by defects is like there's some bumps or some like door dings that it has. I don't know if you can see. Yeah, you can probably see it right there. There's some door dings and scratches that it has that now, because it reflects more of the light around it, you can see more of it. But it's honestly, that's not that big of a deal for me. Having it look this glossy is such more of a positive than having to worry about those dings and whatnot. So the next step in trying to revitalize the paint of this car is honestly going ahead and clay barring the rest of the panels, because they have grime and just years of dirt on it. So I'll go ahead and clay bar it and then continue the process of compounding and polishing the paint as well. So then hopefully the whole car can look as close as how it does these two panels, because honestly it is day and night. I'm pretty sure the camera doesn't do it justice, but this right here is way more clear and defined than all of the other panels. But that is going to be for another video. If you guys like this video, please go ahead, like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one.
Repeat after me. Hakuna Matata.